Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. You know the drill. We're back at it again with the Reddit stories. So let's jump into it, shall we? Entitled neighbor helps herself to my garden. Well, I should have known that no good deed goes unpunished. We have a small vegetable and herb garden in the corner of our yard. Two neighbors have the ability and my permission to reach over the fence and snip off any herbs they may need. We also grow much more than we can use. One neighbor has been doing it for years with no problems. He takes a sprig or two a few times a week and always asks if he needs more than usual. He repays me in beautiful roses, but I would have no problem with not getting them in return. The other neighbor never cooked, so he never took any. Now he has a new girlfriend, and she happened to introduce herself while I was planting the herbs. So I offered her some, once it has a chance to grow a bit. So, of course, 2 weeks after I planted, she snips off all but a few leaves off of every fucking herb. 2 weeks! I was livid. My boyfriend went over and explained that it was too soon. My plants were tiny, not ready, etc. He's much nicer than I am. The neighbor apologized profusely and said the girlfriend wouldn't be going anywhere near the herbs until I specifically allowed it. A week later, I catch this dumbass out there with a pair of scissors, and it's only been a week, and there's nothing to fucking snip out there yet. Apparently, she can't make meatballs without parsley, and the grocery store within walking distance is too far to go. One of my plants has 3 leaves on it. Seriously, the other neighbor doesn't dare take anything before mid-July. Certainly, he would never touch anything before I did. We looked at each other for a few seconds, and then I just said, please get your herbs at the store from now on. I can't believe I managed to think of that. Usually I only think of a great comeback 10 minutes after the fact. She turned bright red and went into the house. Hopefully she embarrassed herself enough to stay away. I don't want to have problems with this neighbor. He's nice and quiet and doesn't bother anyone. Tomorrow it will be a week since I caught her again. We'll see what happens. Ugh. As a plant and garden enthusiast, this royally pissed me off. Like, did she think OP just wouldn't have a problem with her plants being snipped down to a freaking stem and a few leaves? Why did she not know plants take time to grow? And that when the plant is this immature, it essentially has no flavor? My great googly moogly, it astounds me how people can take the inch you've extended to them as a favor and turn it into miles. I'm so glad OP nipped this one in the bud. Neighbor called code enforcement on me about my lawn without even speaking directly with me first. Now, I'm really gonna piss him off. A little background info. My wife and I purchased our house a few years ago, and the day we moved in, our neighbor, Roger, called the cops on us for moving in too loud. We weren't playing music or even talking amongst ourselves, just my wife and I moving our belongings into our new house. Cops came, and I explained that I was just moving in, and they apologized for bothering us. Roger, in all of his retired proud boy glory, comes out of his house immediately after they left to let us know he is the one that called the cops, and in more words, says he is setting the tone for our new life. Even still, we were super cordial with this guy because we wanted to make a good impression in our new neighborhood. It's our first home, and it was important to us to make it homey. About a year or so later, our first son is born. We let our property fall to the back burner while we adjusted to parenthood, and a few newspapers pile up on our driveway and, in the rain, sort of melt onto our driveway, all on our property. Roger comes knocking on the door to complain. I tell him I'm sorry and that we let it get away from us. I explain that we have a newborn son and I would get to it ASAP. He digs in and starts telling me how when he was a new father, he didn't let anything affect his property. And he tells me I'm just being lazy. I said, then why don't you pick it up if you're so worried about it? To which he says, no, I want you to pick up the fucking mess. I was trying to be semi-cordial still, because I'm not interested in unnecessary conflict with my neighbor, so I told him fine, I will get to it. And he left. Later that year, Roger comes over one day to ask if he can trim the tree that hangs over my fence onto his side. And I'm fine with that. So I say no problem. And he casually mentions about how one time, when a 17-year-old kid, friends with his delinquent drug addict son at the time, broke into his garage and he hit him in the head with a baseball bat until he was retarded. And the police came and he was cleared of all responsibility because it was a break-in. He's smiling and laughing while telling me this. Noted, I'm thinking to myself, this guy is a fucking piece of shit psychopath. Well, it's a couple years later now, with a few more minor run-ins, but nothing too significant. And my wife and I just had our second son 1 month ago. About 10 days ago, my son isn't even 3 weeks old at this time, and I get a notice on my door saying my lawn is in violation of my city's code. I mowed it 2 days before my son was born, so it's been about 3 weeks since I mowed, and it's been raining since. I have 48 hours to comply. I call the number on the card and no answer. So I call the non-emergency line to verify what my responsibility is because of the vague wording on the door hanger. It's because one of the types of grass in my lawn, growing very sparsely, like 1 blade per square inch, is over 12 inches tall. The majority of the grass was like 2 to 3 inches long, but there was another type there as well that grew faster. I told them that I am a new father and ask for an extension to deal with it later. They said, don't even worry about the lawn, just take care of the baby. So now with some newfound confidence, I mow my lawn in a spiral shape, leaving lots of grass remaining as a middle finger to whoever. We know who it was at this point, right? Called the cops on me about my lawn. A couple days later, Roger talks to me over our shared backyard fence and asks me about my lawnmower and if it's busted or something. I told him, no, I just have more important priorities than mowing my lawn, and tell him about my new son, and then I asked if he was the one that called the cops on me about it. He said he called code enforcement, but not on me. He called about my neighbors on my other side, a really nice Mexican family who is always diligent about their lawn and always working outside on their new property. He says code enforcement must have happened to notice my lawn when they went to follow up on his call next door. At this point, I say something along the lines of, look, I'm a pretty fucking cool guy. If you have a concern about my property, then you can just speak with me directly. He swears up and down that he didn't call on me and that it was just a coincidence. Whatever. About a week after that, yesterday, he knocks on my door and I already know what's coming. I answer the door kind of chuckling and greet him. He's kind of chuckling too at this point, because it's fucking ridiculous. He says, hey, so you said I could talk with you if I had an issue about your property. I tell him, yeah, by all means. He gestures to my lawn and asks what it's about. I say, it's kind of like a middle finger to whoever called code enforcement on me. He is irate, says if it's a middle finger to him, I stop him and remind him that he told me that he didn't call them on me, so he shouldn't feel targeted. He ignores me and restarts his sentence the same way again, so I cut him off again and I say, I specifically am telling you it's not a middle finger to you, Roger. He says, if it's a middle finger to me, then this means war. Over what? I asked him, laughing. He is getting bigger and huffier by the second and tells me I'm a lazy piece of shit and my property is in shambles and that all the other neighbors mow their lawn. I remind him that I have a newborn son and that my lawn can suck my dick for now. He puffs up as big as he can and says, I never had this issue when I was a new father. I told him I don't give a shit about what he did as a dad. Ironically enough, his drug addict son lives in the house on the other side of him and causes trouble in the neighborhood regularly. Cars peeling out, people screaming at each other, drug addicts always waiting outside, etc. Now he tells me he's going to call code enforcement on me every every day, and I tell him to get the fuck off my property. He says, make me. So I tell him I'm calling the cops, and he says, do it. So I grab my phone and start dialing. He walks to the sidewalk and keeps yelling at me about how I'm lazy and not fit to own a property. Cops come and speak with us. Very anticlimactic. They did make sure to let him know that he needs to get off my property when I say so, and that's all I wanted from them. Tomorrow I'm going to take my hedge trimmers and mow my maze down to 11 inches. Fuck you, Roger. You know, hate is a strong word, but I hate people like Roger. People with the mentality that being a quote-unquote tough piece of human garbage is cool. It's not cool. You're not tough. And you just look like an insecure D-bag with a frail ego that needs to overcompensate by exerting pretend, made-up masculinity. Woo! Anyway, let me just take a breather for a minute. Okay, my suggestion to OP would be to plant a clover lawn. It doesn't grow high enough to violate code, and it's super easy to maintain. Plus, when it flowers, it looks like weeds, which will really piss Roger off. It's also really good for the bees. Hashtag save the bees. So, win-win. But anyway, that is all from me today. I hope these two stories didn't infuriate you as much as they did for me. But regardless, please leave a like and subscribe if you want. I truly appreciate when you do. And I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!